With D23 2024 fast approaching, there are a lot of different rumors flying around about various different announcements that may or may not be made for the Disney parks at this year's event, especially after several D23s that focused largely on blue sky announcements rather than concrete attractions that we actually saw construction towards. But rumors seem to suggest that maybe this year will be different. So I'm going to discuss what my personal predictions are for what I think is going to be announced at this year's D23 event for the Disney parks. This is based on things I have heard personally as well as rumors. So keep in mind that this is me speculating. This is not any kind of confirmation as to any of these things I am going to discuss. I'm going to discuss any and all rumors and projects by park and by resort. So I'm going to start with Walt Disney World, then go on to Disneyland, and then go internationally to any projects I think might be announced internationally outside of the US. With that, let's transition right into Walt Disney World and discussing rumors and projects that may be officially announced at D23 this year for the 4 parks of Walt Disney World. So let's start with the Magic Kingdom. I think the Magic Kingdom is going to be one of the main focuses of this year's D23 event, mainly because of Beyond Big Thunder. Beyond Big Thunder is something that was a part of a lot of the blue sky speculation that Disney has been releasing in previous D23 events, with the most recently announced plans being that this was going to include Coco, Encanto, and a Disney Villains Land. I think we can pretty definitively state that this is not going to be what ends up being built within Beyond Big Thunder, given that Encanto is a part of the Tropical America section in Disney's Animal Kingdom, which I will get more in depth into in the Disney's Animal Kingdom section of the video. Now, I would expect this project to be a fairly extensive project that does not get completed all at once, as it's going to require a lot of infrastructure work backstage and likely a refurbishment of Big Thunder Mountain. And so I personally do not think we're going to get an announcement for the entirety of Beyond Big Thunder at this D23. I think we are going to get an announcement for whatever phase 1 is of Beyond Big Thunder, and I still think it is going to end up being Coco. Coco is an incredibly popular Disney movie, and I think it probably is popular enough to warrant more than a scene in Mickey's PhilharMagic, which is all the Coco presence that Disney World currently has on a permanent basis. And honestly, I think that Beyond Big Thunder Mountain is really a perfect location for Coco within Walt Disney World. Now, some people might say, well, what about Epcot and replacing Grand Fiesta Tour? And I would say for that, I don't think that was ever a realistic option for Coco, because if you look at Grand Fiesta Tour, there is no queue space for that attraction at all. The existing ride often overflows its queue space if the line is only like 20 minutes long. And I think a Coco ride would be far too popular for this location, and there's really nowhere to expand the queue space for this ride, given that it is surrounded on all sides by the actual attraction, a restaurant, and shops. Given that I don't think is a realistic option, I think Beyond Big Thunder is a perfect spot for a Coco ride. Mexico is honestly the natural geographic expansion beyond the American frontier, and I think a Coco-themed section and ride would look really great right next to Big Thunder Mountain. And I think that they would flow together very well architecturally. I think whatever attraction Disney had planned in the original version of Beyond Big Thunder is still going to be a part of what they announced for Beyond Big Thunder at this D23. Beyond that, I think there's a second thing that's going to be announced for the Magic Kingdom, and I think that is the rumored Moana boat ride. This has been a rumor that has been gaining steam in recent months, that the Moana boat ride, which we might have gotten a glimpse of in the previous version of the Dinoland replacement plans for Disney's Animal Kingdom, the ones before Tropical Americas with Moana and Zootopia, may have been not fully canceled, but just relocated to the Magic Kingdom, being planned to be built in an expansion pad in Adventureland within the park. An expansion pad that in the past was planned to be the location of a Fire Mountain attraction, most famously. This would be a new addition between the Jungle Cruise and Pirates of the Caribbean, and be located roughly in the spot where Indiana Jones Adventure is within Disneyland. These rumors have been gaining steam on various Disney fan sites for a while, and I'm going to add in another discussion point that I haven't seen people talk about as to why I think that this is likely going to be announced at this D23. We have Moana 2 coming up. And I mention that not only because it would be the obvious synergy move for Disney to do this at this point, but also because if we look at when Disney has made attractions based on popular films, they often make them alongside sequels to films in that franchise. I think it makes a lot of sense that since we know Disney was already bringing in the voice actors from the original Moana to reprise their roles for Moana 2, that they would have recorded whatever dialogue they need for this attraction then, leading up to some kind of announcement. Now, obviously, that is a lot of speculation on my part. part. But I would also say that I would guess that cast members from Moana 2 are probably going to be at D23, and it would be very easy to get them on stage to announce a Moana attraction as well. There's a lot practically going in favor of this rumor that I am a lot more confident in this rumor than I think some other people are. Honestly, I largely think that that is probably it for what we get for the Magic Kingdom at this D23. There have also been some rumors of a night parade. I honestly wonder if that is a big enough announcement for this D23, and I can see if that night parade rumor is true, maybe it gets relegated to like a Disney Parks blog post. But maybe it makes it in here. Now let's move on to Epcot, where I largely think we're not going to get much news on Epcot this D23. Epcot has just seen so much focus from Disney over the last decade. I think that we're largely not going to hear much on any new projects for Epcot. The only thing I think we're going to really be hearing about is probably some new details and concept art on Test Track 3.0. As this is a project that's already underway, it would be very easy for them to just throw out a few new pieces of concept art, maybe a construction photo or two, as we largely don't know much about this project beyond it's still sponsored by Chevrolet and it's taking some inspiration from World of Motion. There's really not even much rumors for Epcot at this point beyond a Inside Out rumor, which I don't necessarily discount, especially considering how much money Inside Out 2 just made. I think that Disney's absolutely going to be looking to make an Inside Out attraction. My dream for that has always been a spiritual successor to Cranium Command, potentially in the Magic Eye Theater and Imagination, mainly as I would love for Disney to create a new 3D animated film that they could then clone around the world to all of the different theaters that Captain EO and Honey, I Shrunk the Audience used to be in. But I think it might be a bit fast for that announcement to be happening at this point. I would say if there's anything really new in Epcot, that's what I think it would be, but I don't necessarily think that that's coming. With that, let's move on to Disney's Hollywood Studios, which I would also say I largely don't expect much attention to be given to Disney's Hollywood Studios at this event. The one thing I would say is maybe if we get another Blue Sky segment of this D23, if that becomes more of a long-standing thing where we get Blue Sky of projects that will then be finalized at the next D23, maybe we get, let's say, Beyond Animation Courtyard, because I think that that's the next area Disney is going to be giving attention to. I assume Disney will not actually call it that. That is just what I am calling it. But I honestly don't think that that's going to be the case. I think Disney's Hollywood Studios probably doesn't get much attention. Maybe we get like some smaller announcements of characters that are already in Disneyland making their way to Disney World's Galaxy's Edge, which I wouldn't complain about. If we got Ahsoka, if we got Sabine, any of the characters that Disneyland already has, I would say that that is a net positive addition. And we usually get a couple of character announcements, and that would be some good character announcements. And with that, let's move into Disney's Animal Kingdom, the other Disney World park that I think will be getting most of the attention at this D23, mainly because of Tropical Americas, which I think we basically already know most of the details about, at least broadly speaking, that this land is going to include a carousel with an unknown theme, an Encanto ride with an unknown ride system, and a reimagining of Dinosaur into Indiana Jones Adventure. I would assume that we probably get a lot more details on this reimagining. Like, I assume we probably get details as to when Dinoland USA is going to close. My personal bet is probably after the holiday season, as well as hopefully what the ride system for the Encanto ride will be, and maybe some details as to Indiana Jones Adventure. I know there's been a lot of speculation as to how Indiana Jones Adventure is going to fit into Disney's Animal Kingdom. I've always thought that they could easily make a few small changes to the ride to make it fit perfectly within Disney's Animal Kingdom. Just change what the idol is attacking the riders is to be something related to animals or conservation, and I think that the ride would fit relatively well. And maybe we get some more details about that, as well as whatever the theme of the carousel is, as I assume the carousel is going to be themed to some Disney movie, and we do not officially know that at this point. I do think there's a potential for maybe something else in Disney's Animal Kingdom, but I will save that for reference in the international section of the video. With that, let us transition to talking about Disneyland. And I would expect the Disneyland section of D23 to have largely two main focuses. One being the already announced Pandora Land coming to Disneyland Resort. I would assume that we get a location confirmation for this at D23, as well as some details as to what the attraction in this land is going to be. Personally, I still think it's great that Disney is building a separate Pandora Land for Disneyland, allowing both coasts to really have something exclusive, and I expect this to probably be built in Disney California Adventure. Rumors being a bit divided on if this is Hollywoodland or if this is Disneyland Forward, which then leads me into what I think the other half of the Disneyland discussion will be, and I think that that's going to be discussions of Disneyland Forward, which, if you are unfamiliar as to what Disneyland Forward is, Disneyland Forward was basically a set of zoning changes that Disney sought to get from the city of Anaheim to change what they are allowed to build where, mainly in regards to a couple of things. One being they want to build a massive new parking garage on the other side of Harbor Boulevard, as well as a bridge to connect this parking garage to the existing Disneyland Resort over Harbor Boulevard. This is a project that was previously announced as the Eastern Gateway. Disney has been trying to build this for years. I would expect that we finally get an announcement of the Eastern Gateway as the zoning changes to allow this to happen have been approved. And this notably does not only involve that, but it also involves opening up some new land for expansion of Disney California Adventure, as this plan would also involve the relocating of bus loops and drop-off areas that are currently located just north of Hollywoodland in Disney California Adventure across Harbor Boulevard to the complex where this new parking garage would be. Meaning, if Disney were to want to build something on the current site of Hollywoodland, they would have more land to utilize than the current Hollywoodland allows, as they would have all of current Hollywoodland as well as most of the current bus loop area. The only thing remaining being a pathway from the bridge and Harbor Boulevard entrance of Disneyland to the Esplanade. The other thing Disneyland Forward enables Disney to do is turn surface parking lots to the west of Disneyland and Disney California Adventure into theme park space. Disney released some concept art over what they theoretically could do with this land as a part of Disneyland Forward. However, they openly stated that this was not going to be what the final plans for this area was. It is just theoretically what they could do within this space. This included clones of things like Fantasy Springs from Tokyo, the Zootopia ride from Shanghai, a roller coaster that looked oddly like Expedition Everest, a full clone of Pandora World of Avatar as it exists in Disney's Animal Kingdom, and other things. I do not necessarily think this is guaranteed, but I would not be shocked if we got some kind of new blue sky look at what Disney was planning to do with at least part of the land for Disneyland Forward. Again, I don't think that's guaranteed. I think that might be more of a next D23 thing, but I wouldn't be shocked if we see that either. That one I'm more like 50-50 on. There is also, of course, the matter of the Avengers ride, which was announced a while ago, but no actual progress has happened on it. And since it was initially announced, it appears the entire concept for this Avengers ride, beyond the basic theme of it being an Avengers ride, has changed. As when it was initially announced, it was said to be about the Avengers going to some battle in Wakanda, and now it is supposed to be a multiverse ride with an entirely different ride system than appeared in the initial concept art. I really think that Disney has to announce further plans for this at this D23. And I think that that's largely it for the Disneyland Resort. I don't think we're going to be seeing the Tomorrowland redo at this D23. I don't think we're going to be seeing the People Mover return. Now let us move on to Disney parks internationally. Now, I would first say I don't think we're going to be getting announcements for the Tokyo parks. Tokyo tends to do their own announcements, and they've already announced a few projects that I think might get a mention at the panel. Things like the new Space Mountain or the Wreck-It Ralph attraction that's replacing Buzz there, or maybe some details on the Tokyo Disney Cruise Line, but I don't think we're going to learn anything new of significance. I also don't think we're going to learn anything massively new from Hong Kong. I think international announcements, if they happen, are largely going to be focused on Disneyland Paris and Shanghai Disneyland. So let's start with Disneyland Paris, as we are still notably waiting on an announcement for Walt Disney Studios Park or Disney Adventure World, the second park at Disneyland Paris. As, to provide a bit of backstory, when the expansion of Walt Disney Studios was announced, it included two lands being located around a new lagoon. The Frozen Land, which is currently under construction, and a version of Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, which has not been constructed and is believed to have been canceled. So I think it is highly likely that we will get an announcement of what is replacing Star Wars Galaxy's Edge in Walt Disney Studios. And the rumors for that have largely been united around one common thing, and that is a Lion King land, which frankly, incredibly excited for, if that is true. That sounds incredible. I've always been shocked that Disney has never built a Lion King ride, and I would love to see this rumor turn out to be true, and I'd say it's probably the most likely thing to be announced for Disneyland Paris at this year's D23. And I would also state, remember during the Disney's Animal Kingdom section of the video when I said I think there was something else that could be announced for Disney's Animal Kingdom? This is what I was talking about. We all know Disney loves to build clones of things, and so I could very much see them announcing we're not going to build one Lion King ride, we're building two. And there's absolutely enough room in the Africa section of the park that they could build a standalone Lion King ride, likely without losing anything. I mean, if you've been to Disney's Animal Kingdom, you know there's that massive stretch of nothing between Africa and Pandora. Beyond that, I don't know if we'll get anything else announced for Disneyland Paris. There's been rumors floating around that maybe Star Wars Land moved to Disneyland Park to be connected to Discoveryland, but I don't know if Disneyland Paris would necessarily get two announcements of that size at a single D23, or if they would build both of those at the same time, despite the fact that it has been a ridiculous amount of time since the Disneyland Park at Disneyland Paris got a new ride. I hope something is announced for there. I don't know if I necessarily believe it will be. And now for the last thing that I think is decently likely to be announced for the parks. It is the unknown Shanghai Disneyland roller coaster. This has been a project that has been known about for years, largely because of planning documents that have been released, that Shanghai Disneyland is going to be getting a launched roller coaster, but we don't know what theme that's going to be. I could absolutely see this being announced. Based on the planning documents, we know this is coming. It has not been formally acknowledged from Disney. Beyond that, I expect there to be other things at the parks panel as well. I would expect that we learn a lot about the new Disney cruise ship. And of course, there's always a bunch of smaller things sprinkled in, new meet and greet characters. Maybe we'll learn some more information on the Pirates Lounge coming to Magic Kingdom. But that is what I think we are in for the major announcements for this year's D23 Parks panel. But I want to know what you think. What do you think is going to be announced at this year's D23 Parks panel? Let me know in the comments.